the king of Wall Street, the mastermind behind what seemed to be the ultimate low-risk, high-return investment strategy. Bernie Madoff lured in investors with his charm and fake financial savvy, but it was all part of his fraudulent scheme. For over 2 decades, he played a dangerous game of deception, depositing his investors' hard-earned money into his own bank account while repaying early investors with the funds of unsuspecting new ones. Red flags were ignored, and Madoff's empire flourished, until one day everything came crashing down. This is the shocking tale of Bernie Madoff and his downfall as the man behind the biggest Ponzi scheme of all time. Born in Queens, New York on April 29, 1938, Madoff's path to infamy started with a seemingly ordinary upbringing. He graduated from Far Rockaway High School in 1956 and went on to study political science at Hofstra University. After graduating from Hofstra, Madoff attended Brooklyn Law School. However, he left after only 1 year to start his own penny stock brokerage called Bernard L. Madoff Investment Securities, LLC. Little did anyone know, this was only the beginning of a story that would forever be remembered as one of the biggest financial scams. At the time, few could have imagined the magnitude of the scheme that Bernie was about to unleash. Bernie started his brokerage with $5,000 that he made working as a lifeguard and sprinkler system installer, as well as a $50,000 loan from his father-in-law. Madoff utilized his skills in marketing to attract wealthy and well-connected individuals as investors in his funds. He made them feel special by only allowing a select few to invest, leading to a perception of exclusivity. This strategy, along with favorable recommendations from satisfied investors, allowed Madoff to secure more investments. Bernie's charm and manipulation were so effective that unsuspecting investors saw him as a financial mastermind and felt like they'd hit the jackpot when given the opportunity to invest with him. In reality, they were depositing their funds into a Ponzi scheme. Madoff claimed that he was utilizing an investment strategy known as a split strike conversion. This strategy involves creating a collar by purchasing an out-of-the-money put option and simultaneously writing an out-of-the-money call option. The put option serves as protection in the event of a decrease in the stock's price, while the sale of the call option generates income to cover the cost of the put and allows for profits up to the strike price of the call, but not beyond. In essence, this strategy aims to guard against significant losses, but also limits the potential for substantial gains. Madoff stated that he would consistently generate returns of about 10% per year. However, the investors' funds were not being put to use. Instead, they were deposited into an account at Chase Manhattan Bank. The funds were utilized to repay earlier investors and to allow Madoff to personally pocket a portion of the money. But how is Madoff's scheme able to go undetected for so many years? Put simply, the truth is absolutely shocking. The SEC had first begun investigating Madoff's investment firm in 1992, but ultimately nothing came of the investigation. However, in 1999, a financial analyst named Harry Markopoulos concluded that Madoff's claims were false after conducting his own calculations. He submitted his first complaint to the SEC about Madoff in May of 2000, but his warnings were ignored by the regulator. Markopoulos wrote a letter to the SEC again in 2005, stating Madoff was running a Ponzi scheme. Markopoulos identified various inconsistencies in Madoff's operations. One such inconsistency was the fact that Madoff's firm claimed to be making profits even during times when the S&P was declining, which was inconsistent with the supposed investments Madoff was making. Additionally, Markopoulos discovered that Madoff was seeking substantial loans from European banks, which seemed unnecessary if his returns were as high as he claimed. This further reinforced Markopoulos' suspicion and strengthened his case against Madoff. Despite Markopoulos' efforts to alert the SEC to Madoff's fraudulent activities, his warnings were ignored. Due to his reputation, many people were confident in Madoff's ability to generate consistent returns for his clients. He was a former NASDAQ chairman and had a well-established network of influential contacts and clients. This in turn made it more difficult for the SEC to believe that Madoff was engaged in fraudulent activities. Some sources estimate that Madoff was able to run a Ponzi scheme with funds that totaled an estimated $65 billion. However, other sources state that in reality, Madoff stole $20 billion and that the $65 billion claims came from his firm's false account statements. Either way, it's certain that Madoff's Ponzi operation generated a substantial amount of money. But the clock was ticking, and soon enough, the truth about Madoff's fraudulent scheme would be exposed.
Bernard Madoff has just been sentenced for the biggest investment fraud in Wall Street history. A federal judge ordered Madoff, who is 71 years old, to serve a maximum 150 years in prison.
The financial crisis of 2008 had devastating effects on the global economy, and this led to the downfall of Bernie Madoff's Ponzi scheme. As investors became more risk-averse, many of them began withdrawing their money from Madoff's investment firm, which relied on a constant influx of new funds to pay returns to existing investors. As the pace of withdrawals increased, Madoff's ability to pay returns to all of his investors diminished. Eventually, investors had attempted to withdraw an estimated $7 billion, and Madoff was unable to meet the withdrawal requests. As a result, the scheme began to unravel. In December of 2008, Madoff confessed his crimes to his two sons, and they decided to turn Madoff in after consulting with a lawyer. The following day, he was arrested in New York City and was later sentenced to 150 years in prison. His homes and boats were auctioned off by the U.S. Marshals, and he was forced to surrender $170 billion in 2009. The revelation of Bernie Madoff's massive Ponzi scheme caused widespread shock around the world. The sheer scale of the fraud, which resulted in billions of dollars in losses for thousands of investors, was met with disbelief and outrage. Madoff died on April 14, 2021, at the Butner Federal Correctional Institution in North Carolina. Efforts to reimburse victims of this Ponzi scheme are still ongoing to this day. In the aftermath of the scandal, there were widespread calls for greater procedures and regulations in the financial industry to prevent a fraudulent scheme like this from happening again in the future. Bernie Madoff's Ponzi scheme has forever left its mark on the world of finance and beyond. Despite his passing in 2021, the aftermath of his operation continues to impact the lives of the many people he defrauded. As the world reflects on the life and crimes of Bernie Madoff, we can only hope that a fraudulent scheme like this will never happen again. As always, if you found this content entertaining, please take a moment to like the video and subscribe to our channel. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.